Good morning, good afternoon. What time is it? Good afternoon, Chockers. Welcome to an ambitious flight. Ambitious because it's Sunday, and I'm definitely going to get interrupted at some point by the family. But here we are at Teesside with auto scenery on. It's looking beautiful. I've left the FPS at the top left on the screen just to show you I'm getting 79 to 82 frames per second. This is since Laminar did some work with making the rendering code multi-core, which is good. I've got a fairly modest system, so it's a 5060 Ti for the graphics. 16 gig of RAM, which is quite a lot of VRAM. But this setup has always been bottlenecked by the CPU and that single core rendering thread that they've used in the past. But now there are a few. It is freezing for me as well. It's not a artifact of the stream. I'm getting some points where it's kind of freezing for a moment, which is annoying. Let's hope that doesn't happen in the air. But yeah, since they've moved to multi-core rendering, the frame rate has effectively doubled, which is great. So for a modest machine, 5060 Ti, I've got a 13700 KF processor. So I think that's what, 12 cores, something like 6 economy cores, 6 performance cores. But it just means that the game can start dividing out big chunks of rendering work off to those multiple cores. It's having a great effect on the rendering capabilities. So let's hop into our steed for the day. I'm simulating a family trip. So I would normally fly on the Aquila because that's the one that I'm learning on at the moment. But this is a 4-seater family Cessna 172 Skyhawk, and we're going to take this up to Kirkwall. Now I have been flying exclusively the Aquila for a while now, so this is going to be quite interesting to remember how to fly the Cessna. So let's start without any checklists, which is a terrible habit to get into, but let's just get into it anyway. See if all of my switches still work. Now what I'm finding is, do I have? Yes, I've got electric trim, which isn't on any of the Cessnas that I've flown, but it is on the Aquila, so we'll keep that on. Just hear the stall warning horn. Can you hear the stall warning horn? Stall warning horn's just squeaking a little bit there. So we should have full fuel, which we'll tell in a moment when the all these switches come on. Actually, so we've got almost full fuel because I put real weights for my family in, and actually the Cessnas don't carry a lot of payload, to be honest with you. It's very easy to go overweight on them. So if you've got a few passengers, you need to reduce fuel. So let's turn the beacon because we're about to start the engines. The mixture is in. Is our fuel on? Fuel's on both or left and right, so there isn't an off switch, but there is a fuel cut-off switch at the bottom, which is closed at the moment. So we should be in a position now where we can start this engine. So go through the mags and then need a little bit of throttle on. Bring that up to 1200 RPM, which is just there. And then we can turn on the avionics. And I will load the flight plan in just a moment. Let's have a quick look over here. So we've got the ammeter is charging. We've got suction in the vacuum. Fuel flow is low for now. We should see that change. Fuel is there. Hopefully it'll be pulling from both, so we don't need to worry about switching fuel tanks today. Temperatures and pressures, T's and P's. Pressure straight into the green, so we do have oil pressure into the engine, which is good. We don't have the temperature yet to go flying, but that will rise in a moment. And once we get the temperatures into the green, then we're good to go. A few other things we need to do. We need to align our DI, the direction indicator, to the compass. So that is 300, 310, 315. So we'll get this lined up with 315 magnetic, which is this way. 315 there. Our altitude, if I press M, zoom into where we are in Teesside, click on there and go to details, it says 120 feet mean sea level, which means that if we're on the ground, our altimeter, when we're running on QNH, which is altitude, elevation above sea level, effectively, above mean sea level, that should be reading 120. So we are now correct for altimeter and DI. So still on 1200. Let's turn on the avionics properly. Okay, I'm okay. How are you? Instrument panel self-test. Okay, I don't think I've seen it do that before. That's interesting. Do I have an enter button here? Whatever. Okay. Now, can I load a flight plan into here? I always forget how to do this. Every single time if I go into flight plan, if I go to, oh, there we go. So it's flight plan and then the little circle one. Push to create the cursor. And then I need EGNV, EGNV, EGPA01. Enter. And that should, if I zoom out, take us all the way up to Kirkwall. So WIK is Wick. There we go. That's going to take us all the way to runway 27 with some graphical artifacts up in Kirkwall. Marvellous. Now then, do we have any air traffic control online? No. Okay, so we're going to use Unicom. So we'll use the, apparently I can't do two things at once. So 122.8 is Unicom. Let's put that onto, oh, it's not, it's COM2. Silly boy. COM2. So let's switch this between push for COM. Yep, so on COM we want 122.8, and this just means that we announce our intentions over the radio. We don't have to speak to anybody. Flip flop onto there. Actually, that's saying network unreachable. Let's try and log in again. Still saying network unreachable. I've been having this problem this morning. It's very strange that the stream to YouTube is fine, but nothing else seems to be able to see the fact that I am connected to the interwebs. Which is a little bit worrying. So I'm on the right Wi-Fi. Let's connect. Maybe it's a problem at their end. I wonder if it is a problem at the VATSIM end. X-plane connection established. Network authentication error. Let me just have a quick look, just see if there's any sort of issues reported. Sorry, it's on a different screen. Doesn't look like there's anything currently showing on the VATSIM website. We may need to just just make sure I've got the right password in as well. I'll try and reconnect. Network unreachable. Okay, let's just fly. We can reconnect later on. For now, I will take X-Pilot out of the way, and then we can just get a move on, because we are just burning fuel sat on the ramp here. Now then, if I bring the map back up again, click somewhere on the airport property, it will then give me the current conditions here. So it's currently saying QNH 1008. Let's just cross-check that with our altimeter. Wind is 240 at 18 knots, so it's very blowy. We will take off from runway 23, because that means that we'll have a slight right crosswind. We'll get a lot of extra air over our wings. We're going to turn north, head up towards Newcastle, and we're going to climb to 4,000 feet. 4,000 feet is going to be our cruise altitude for this flight. So let's taxi over to runway 23. I'm not connected to VATSIM, so I'm not going to do a radio call. So let's just head straight over there now. Quite nice being back in a Cessna. I've missed them. They are slower aircraft though than the Aquila. The Aquilas are very, very streamlined, and they just go through the air very nicely. It's very easy to get up to that 130 knot yellow line speed, whereas the yellow line speed in the Cessna of 130 as well. It's very ambitious, at least in the 150, maybe the 172. It's been a long time since I flew a 172 for real. Maybe it is easier to get up to it. It's harder to handle on the ground than I remember. But you know, I've always had issues staying on the centre line. The other thing as well is the Aquila model requires lots of left rudder, which is definitely not the case in reality. You need just bags and bags of right rudder all the time. Even on a 1 hour lesson, you come off and your right leg is aching from pushing down the right rudder pedal so much. But on this model, I'm very much having to use a lot of right rudder, which feels a lot more realistic. We now have T's and P's are in the green, which is good. And you can see that the plane is starting to tip over to the left a little bit here, and that's because I haven't got a lot of right aileron into the wind here. So I've put full right aileron into the wind. It's not actually doing a lot for the tilt, but that is the wind from 240 degrees hitting the tail fin of the plane. It's sort of tipping the plane over a little bit. So this could be a very interesting takeoff. Going to have to tip the aileron slightly into the wind to make sure it doesn't flip the aircraft as we're going down the runway. Shouldn't be anything on approach when we're offline. Just make sure we've got flaps down, which we didn't. I will do a quick pre-takeoff checklist just before we start rolling. Normally do that at the holding point, but not today. The whole world to ourselves today, so we can do what we want. Huge runway this. Coming from Eshot to Teesside was a huge shock. Just the size of the runway that you operate from is just crazy. So let's keep our revs up a bit. You can test the brakes as well by going to 1700, which is what you normally do during the power checks. Let's keep it there. Make sure you've got both mags. So left, both, right, both. That all looks good. Put our landing lights on. Nav lights on, strobe lights on should be on before we went onto the runway. Check the DI, so the DI is currently showing. Just get rid of the parallax by sliding across here. So 210, 220, 225. And we have 210. Let's just bring that there. That's better. 120 feet, 120 feet there. We've got fuel, T's and P's in the green. Those are both lined up Fuel flow doesn't seem to be doing much, does it? Oh, yes, it does. So once we're moving, that'll be good. EGT is still low, exhaust gas temperature. Not sure why that's not moving. Maybe that'll change once we get into the air. So things I need to do are make sure we have our transponder on. So for Squawking 7000, we've got flaps, we've got the trim in takeoff, which is that little arrow there. Avionics are on. Generally don't take off with the fuel pump on. I think we're good to go. Okay, let's go flying. So let's bring this back down, make sure we don't get an aisle cut out. Heels on the floor. Bit of right rudder, bit of right aileron. There's 60 knots, there's 70. Just gently pull back. Get her into the air, just wind out that aileron. Keep that nose on the horizon. I'm going to go wings level just to allow it to blow us back across to the runway, because I think I went slightly to the right. Nose is trying to climb, so I'm just adding a little bit of nose down elevator trim just to keep it under control. Maintain 70 knots in the climb. Looking beautiful today, Teesside. And then bring the flaps up at 500 feet, 600 feet really, above the ground. Just let the aircraft settle a bit. That should allow us to climb a bit faster without the drag of those flaps. And then what we're going to do at this point is we are going to add a bit of elevator back pressure trim. Keep that nose climbing, and then we're going to have a look under our right wing, make sure there's nothing hiding under there. There's not. And then we're going to do a right hand turn at no more than rate 1, so that's 15-degree turn. Just watch that speed coming down. And we're going to try and intercept, gorgeous blue skies, going to try and intercept that GPS line to the north, and then we can start our trip to Orkney today. Why Orkney? It was mentioned recently in a conversation between me and my wife. One of her friends lives up there, and I just thought it'd be a good flight. Easy as that. Let's level out a bit there. Still accelerating, which is good to see. These do have quite a lot of performance. I don't know if this one's modelled with the Rolls-Royce engine. I imagine it's not. I imagine it's got the Continental. Because this looks like the Cessna, not the Rhymes Cessna. Oh, have I just completely skipped over my routing? Yeah, I'm going completely the wrong way. Just ignore that, folks. Just giving you a little quick tour of the airport. Let's get back onto this magenta line. Don't know what happened there, to be honest. I should have been checking my compass. In the real plane, it's a lot easier just to have a look out the window and see what's going on. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so you'll notice on our nav, our next waypoint is NATEB. That is a VOR, VHF omnidirectional range beacon. That is on the Newcastle International Airport site. The ETE, the estimated time en route, basically how long is it going to take to get us there, is trying to calculate how long it's going to how long it's going to take us to get there. I don't think it's going to take 37 minutes, given that it's just up the road. And then once we get to 4,000 feet, which we're more than half the way there, we can level out with cruise power, and we should add another 20 to 30 knots to what we're doing at the moment. So let's try and get this turned onto that magenta line. Trying to intercept it with a little bit more flair and ability than what I did originally. Coming up to 3,000 feet. Now what you'd also normally do in uncontrolled airspace, every top of the clock, is you would just lower the nose a little bit, just make sure there's nothing in front of you heading towards you, and then allow the aircraft to speed up a little bit. Let that pull the nose back up again, but keep the same engine power, and then just let the aircraft settle out again with its nose pointing up. So you generally do that at 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet. Some schools also teach you to do it at the halves as well, every 500 feet. We've noticed a slight deviation between our DI and the magnetic compass, which we can sort out in a moment. It's probably from my rapid maneuvers after takeoff to get back on track. Flying a little bit uncoordinated there. Need a little bit more right rudder. "200 feet to go. Climbing at 500 feet, so with 50 feet to go, that's when we would start leveling out again. There's 50 feet. Let's start bringing the nose down. Attitude, pitch, trim. Attitude, power, trim. Really bad at doing multiple things at once. There's cruise power, 2300 RPM. Start. So attitude. Try and get up to that 4,000 feet. Trying to pitch the nose down a bit. It's hard with the electrical elevator trim. It's easier with the wheel. You can really feel, even just through the tension of the wheel, when you've got it right, and you just feel the plane just respond. Nicely trimmed aircraft just flies so beautifully. Just totally hands off. It just flies itself. It's as good as a autopilot. So let's just zoom out a little bit. We've got EG41 up ahead. That is Fishburne Airfield, brand new. It's just been taken over by new management, and there is a new bistro there, which I forget the name of. It used to be called the Aviator. I forget what it's called now, but it's on my list of things to do over the summer in the nicer weather. So here we are. We are flying straight and level. Gorgeous farms and fields of Teesside below. So it's going to take us just shy of 20 minutes to get up to Newcastle. I doubt very much if I've got the brownie points to spend all of Sunday afternoon getting up to Orkney today, but let's see how far we get. Can definitely get to Newcastle. So around about this time, on a family flight, family cross country, probably starting to open your drinks. Maybe if you haven't eaten yet, get the sandwiches open. Don't drink too much though, not when you've got a 3-hour flight ahead of you. So just keeping the nose on the horizon as much as I can right now. Cheating a little bit by using electric pitch trim. You can see the time now, the ETE is dropping precipitously. We must have a little bit of a tailwind, I would imagine. So if the... where was the wind coming from? 240. Okay, so we don't have a tailwind. We've got a pure crosswind here. So our nose... oh, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get the DI lined up again, weren't we? So let's just get nice and level. So that is in the middle there, in the middle there. So I'd say it probably needs to tick a couple of degrees just to the left there. But really we're flying on the GPS, but let's just keep everything nice and serviceable, just in case the GPS fails for whatever reason. Normally as well I would be keeping track of times, but I'm not going to bother today. So we've got 24.3 miles up to Newcastle. Maybe let's see Fishburn off to the right at some point. So I should just be able to fly on this instrument here, because I think this one's plugged into the GPS. So we want to stay at 4,000 feet, and we want to just keep that line nice and straight. Let's just see if I can spot Fishburn out the window here. Be a little bit further up. So Fishburn's a grass strip. Should just be out of our window now. Just on the other side of the road. Let's have a look. Has anyone spotted it yet? It's south of that quarry, so I think I may have just missed it. Unfortunately. Is it visible from the back seats? Gonna have to do some realigning to our course, I think. Yeah. Normally in the Cessna I'd be keeping away from clouds, but this is effectively an IFR flight, so we can fly through them. So T's and P's in the green, suction, ammeter charging, fuel flows in the green, loads and loads of fuel. Normally you do what's called a Frida check. So check your fuel, check your radio, which isn't a factor right now, but let's actually just see if there was an issue with VATSIM before. Let's see if we can connect now. No, still network unreachable. That is a shame. I'll try it again later on. Get through Newcastle's airspace and then we'll try again, because I don't really want to log in the middle of controlled airspace. It's not good for me, it's not good for the controllers. And this is it. Right now we're just sailing along, and this is kind of what a cross country is like. You get to enjoy the views a little bit. You've got to constantly keep an eye on your map to make sure you're not drifting off course. Got to avoid the clouds, got to do a little bit of radio calling. The flying is the easy part. When there's not an emergency situation, by far, the flying is very, very easy to do. There's a little bit of muscle memory that you need to learn, a bit of right rudder, bit of coordination. You've got to just keep your wits about you. Your ears are very, very important when you're flying along, making sure that that engine noise is continuous. I can't show you on this because it's got an automatic carburetor heat, but if you leave on the C-150, or actually on the C-172, the Cessna 172 that I flew, they've got manual carburetor heat. And if you leave that open, your performance is sapped and the engine note is reduced. And it's very noticeable. So this is why there is a bit of controversy about those pilots who decide to listen to music through their fancy Bose noise-cancelling headphones. As they're flying along, they may miss the engine cough, they may miss the engine note change. There's a lot of discussion about that sort of thing. I personally am quite happy flying along, just enjoying the views. I don't need my ears filled with music. That said, I've never done a real, oh look at the sun glistening off that river down there. I've never done a 3-hour cross-country before. And that might change my tune. And again, if you're flying through controlled airspace and stuff like that, the only radio you should have in your ears is air traffic controllers. Let's just steer a little bit back on course. I'm having a total mental blank on what this instrument is called. Is it the OBS? You can tell I'm not an instrument pilot yet. Or the RMI? I'm sure that's the RMI. That one there. Anywho, I've kind of been out of flying for a year, real flying. I need to retake my air law exam, which I'm not too concerned about. So I got a decent score the first time round, and I've done a bit more flying, started to do navigation, and I've passed my flight radio telephony operator's license since that. So hopefully I've got a bit more entrenched knowledge in my brain about air law, which is good. But I do need to revise. It's just little things like some of the symbols that they used to put on airports in what's called the signal square. So if you have a radio failure, they'll either communicate with you with a light gun, so they'll give you white, green and red lights, either solid or flashing, and that will basically tell you what to do, even without a radio, which is good. But also there's something called a signal square at some airports or airfields, typically where there's no air traffic controllers. And those signal squares and the signals in them, that's always been a weak point of mine that I need to work on. So it's things as detailed as usually after like a rainstorm, it will be you can only take off from hard surfaces like tarmac and concrete, but you can taxi on softer surfaces like grass. There's a dumbbell shaped symbol for that. It's either filled in if it's you can use hard surfaces only, and if it's not filled in, if it's take off on hard, taxi on soft, and things like that. But I just need to remind myself exactly what the different combinations are before I do my air law exam. But those are the hard bits. This bit here, flying along, sightseeing, easy peasy. If there was a failure, if my engine quit, that's when it becomes less easy. That's when you really need to lean on your training. We do practice what we call forced landings. It's like an emergency landing. So you're landing whether you like it or not, because you don't have engine power. And unfortunately, these things don't glide particularly well. So you're going to land somewhere, and then you're training, which I've gone through a few times on this channel. The training tells you how to find a good field or a good space to land in. On cross countries, it's more interesting in a bad way, because when you're in a forced landing situation, especially in the countryside, you've got to be very, very cautious of power cables and telephone wires. Don't think you really need to go into too much thought about the damage that they could cause as you're trying to land somewhere. So, 7 minutes from Newcastle. Looks very busy, lots of roads there. I imagine that is probably going to be Washington, so we should start to see the Tyne up ahead, which we can there. How are we doing for ground speed? 92 knots ground speed. 6 minutes up to Newcastle. What I thought we may have seen is the Team Valley Trading Estate, which I've featured a few times. It's probably right under the nose right now. So if I look up, can I slide to one side? There we go. Team Valley Trading Estate, just here. The big white roofed area here, and then the Angel of the North would just be down there. So those white roofs are featured on my recent navigation flight videos. Those are a big visual reference point for me, just to make sure I'm going in the right place towards the Tyne bridges. So the River Tyne has got a number of bridges. It's something it's famous for, and that is a visual reference point, or a visual reporting point, VRP, for visual navigation. So at the top of the GPS, you can now see Newcastle Airport coming into view. NT is a NDB, a non-directional beacon, which you can use for navigating to the airfield. NATEB, I believe, is that magenta text there, but you just can't quite see it because it's a bit busy in that area. I think that's probably more realistic for a seating position in a Cessna. Yeah, I would say that's probably about right. You don't have a lot of visibility out the side because you've got the big wing blocking your view, and the doors just aren't very tall. A little bit of a design flaw. Look at the River Tyne there. You can see the bridges down there. Very, very famous bridges. You can see the Millennium Bridge there. Let's just sort out the altitude. So we'll just add a little bit of power, get back up to 4,000 feet. Just try and remain coordinated. Steer left a little bit. That's going to take us up to Newcastle Airport. Just let the aircraft settle back into that new power setting, that new speed. So trouble is, at the moment we don't have a proper horizon. It's too hazy up ahead. That is a real problem. I've had that myself. So you do have to rely a little bit on the instruments to give you your horizon. Try and keep the nose above the horizon. For me, that engine's just a little bit low, so we'll just put it on to 2300 RPM. And then nearly at Newcastle Airport. There's Newcastle Airport down there. Oh, that's a beautiful photo. So for anyone who lives in Newcastle, you'll know that you come off the roundabout off the A1, travel down to the airport there, and then you get charged a kidney or a liver or a ventricle to park up or to drop people off. And you can see we're actually sliding sideways a little bit, skating sideways in the wind. Let's just jump back inside because I do feel I'm going to go off course if I do that. A few cloud artifacts still present in 12.4.0. They do need to sort those out. It does harm the immersion. Climbing a bit high here, so let's get back to our assigned altitude. Self-assigned altitude. Still at 73 frames per second, pretty good going. So then the white line should turn magenta in just a moment, and that's the new active line. So 20 seconds we've got to Newcastle. And then I think our next waypoint is actually north of Edinburgh. Let's find out. 7. There we go. So 1 hour 28 to the next waypoint. $137 miles up the northeast coast. See the sea off there in the distance? Not very clearly. It's a very hazy day. The clouds rolling by. I need to get a pitch trim wheel, but they're very rare. Cytec, I don't even think Cytec makes them anymore, so you've got to get one second hand. And because they're rare and they're valuable to nerds like me, they can be quite pricey. That said, I did actually get the Cytec yoke, throttle quadrant and pedals during COVID. And it was brand new from Amazon, so maybe I just need to look on Amazon. Do you know what, let's see if I can do that while I'm flying. Try and stay on course at the same time. Cytec, Cessna. Trim. Currently unavailable, yeah. It's going to be an eBay job, I think. One of the reasons we don't fly through clouds when we're learning to fly and flying visually is you don't know what's on the other side of them. Maybe another aircraft heading straight for you. Also thinking, that's a lovely cloud, let's fly through it. And that doesn't end well. But if you're flying on instruments, IFR, then you generally have air traffic control looking out for you. So they'll tell you if something's heading your way and they can redirect you or redirect the other aircraft. But also you're not going to lose your situational awareness because you're flying on instruments. You know what your altitude, direction, etc. needs to be. So it doesn't matter that there's weather, you just use your instruments instead to fly. So it's still February, I think. So the sun remains quite low in the sky this time of year. So it is 2:30 in the afternoon, and the sun is quite low, and it does get in the way. So if we were flying east to west, we'd basically just have the sun in our face the whole way. Not fun. We need to lose a little bit of altitude. I think VP433 is... I think it must be a helipad at an emergency hospital that's set up on the coast of coast near Blythe. I think that's what that'll be. And then up ahead you've got EG34, which is what they call Eshot in X-Plane. So we'll pass over Eshot. So far, looking pretty good. Should we see if we can get reconnected to X-Pilot again? Yay, we're on. Fantastic. So it must have just been a problem on their end. See lots of yellow labels flashing on the screen. Just wait for some air traffic controllers to come on. We've got Edinburgh Tower, we've got Edinburgh ATIS, we've got NATS, that's the North Atlantic Tracks, North Atlantic Radio. So we're probably not going to go too oceanic on this flight. That would be a bit silly. But at least we may be able to see some other aircraft flying by or hear them on the radio, which would be nice. Just that is where the immersion really comes from. If I just hit M again, you can see there are aircraft here because X-Pilot is an option now on the right hand side. Got a Ryanair there. You've got MAG 50 something Alpha there. MAG 51 Alpha. I see that one quite a lot, but I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to be in real life. Finns, you've got a Finnish aircraft, probably heading up to somewhere in Finland. Lots of aircraft trying to get up to maybe Glasgow or Edinburgh here. EasyJet and a shuttle, British Airways shuttle coming back down from 8G, it's probably Aberdeen. Lots of traffic going on at Edinburgh. We're going to stay out of the TMA, the terminal maneuvering area. I'm going to go up the coast here. Let's just close this down, see how far off track I've got. Quite far, quite far. So let's steer back on course. I think that road there is probably the A1, which is the main road between London and Edinburgh in Scotland. So if you're not familiar with the UK motorway system, you can start off in London. Wrapping around London, there's a big circular orbital road called the M25, which somehow always has a queue on it, or roadworks or something. From the M1 you can join the from the M25 you can join the M1, and you basically just head north and stay on that road all the way up to Edinburgh. If you want to then go to Glasgow, you'd go on the M74, or the M7 across to Glasgow, and then the M74. Do you need to go on the M74? Maybe not. The M7 probably does it. The M74 does head north from Glasgow as well. You do need to go on the M74 if you're going from Manchester to Glasgow. So if you want to go from London to Manchester driving, don't do that, silly thing to do. You would probably go along the M4 corridor towards Bristol and then up the M6. Maybe there's an M5 in there somewhere, but I can't quite remember. But the M6 is the road that basically goes up the west coast of the UK. And then once you get into Scotland, you'd connect it with the M74. That will take you up to Glasgow. $122 miles to go. So for a jet aircraft traveling at cruising speed, you would fly 1 mile every 7 seconds. So what's that? 700 and something seconds. So it would take you around about 10, 12-ish minutes. 12, 14 minutes to do 121 miles. Slightly longer in one of these little paraffin budgies. Did we pass that shot already? We must have done. Yeah, the scenery is getting much more Scottish. Lots more heather. Lots of gorse. Pretty sure that road there will be the A1. It's quite a straight road. Apart from that giant bend. And then you probably have up here, that is likely to be Berwick upon Tweed, possibly. Let me just check the map. Whereabouts are we? Oh, nowhere near Berwick upon Tweed just yet. So there's Esshot, which we've just passed. That is going to be Amble and Sea Houses. And then you've got Berwick all the way up here. Let's get back on course. So we're on the magenta line. We're just not heading in the right direction. There we go. It's quite interesting as well. Once you sort out your direction, your estimated time en route will come down. Or go up as it is now. That's a bit strange. Ground speed of 93 knots. What if we did a 2400 RPM? Not a lot of difference. Just see the nose rise, that's all. Let's bring it back to 2300. Keep it nice and stable. Very, very quiet today. Nobody online. I'd normally have Scottish information on as well, just keeping an eye out for me, maybe having a basic service from them so they can keep me posted on any major issues that I need to be aware of, or any traffic alerts. They also generally keep you abreast of any changes to the pressure settings in the area. which is good, very helpful, especially as the temperature goes down in the afternoon. If you keep your pressure setting the same in the aircraft, the pressure outside will drop, so you'll be registering a higher altitude in the aircraft than is actually outside. So you need to keep your pressure settings updated so that you keep properly separated both from the ground and also from other aircraft flying on flight levels. Which is a good point. I should really be on a standard pressure setting now, which I am out of fluke more than anything else. So that means that we're no longer flying at 4,000 feet on a standard pressure setting. We're now flying at flight level 40. That's all a flight level is. It's an altimeter setting which changes your altitude into a flight level. So flight level 320 is 32,000 feet on your altimeter with a specific pressure setting. And that pressure setting is 1013.25 hectopascals in most worldwide regions apart from the United States. And in the United States it's 29.92 or 29.92 inches of mercury. Factoid of the day. You can see the coast over there. We will have just passed Morpeth. I'll be just behind us, I think now. Not Morpeth. What am I talking about? Anak. That's right. So Anak will be down here somewhere. XEG046. That is Boomer, RAF Boomer. It's an RAF base, and that is where the Sea King Coast Guard helicopters are based, I believe. I also think it may be an early warning centre for watching out over the North Sea, but I'm not sure. I don't think it would be that blatant to have that at a RAF base. It's probably based in somebody's back bedroom. Aircraft does like to turn right. It's like the opposite of a NASCAR. Okay, let's do a quick feeder check. So, fuel, plenty of fuel, still using both tanks, checked. Radio, there's nobody to speak to right now. Engine, T's and P's are both in the green. We've got suction, we've got ammeter charging. Fuel flow is also in the green. RPM's 2300 and stable, so it's not bouncing around, which would suggest a problem. D, direction indicator, so let's just get nice and level. And that is showing, hang on, I'm turning, let it settle down, I think it's okay. You shouldn't really get gyroscopic precession unless you're making fairly major turns, but it is always good to, so I think this one's slightly ahead, so we'll just take a couple of degrees off it. Let it settle again. Still trying to turn. No, so we've got too many degrees off it now, so I think 33. think that's about it. Then A, oh, radio. And then A is altitude. So we're on the right pressure setting, we're on the right altitude, 4,000 feet. We're about to go feet wet. So if we're flying a real aircraft, we would need some life jackets on board. You can see up ahead we've got, I'm guessing that's probably going to be the Farne Islands off to the right there. Or maybe Holy Island, in fact. Yeah, I think that'll be Holy Island. Which is a really cool place to visit, if you get the chance. It's where the Venerable Bede started the missionary and the monastery there. It's a cool ruined monastery there, but it's been basically attacked over the last 1200 years by Vikings and all sorts of people. Wouldn't be surprised if the Axis powers had a go at it as well during World War II. So how are we doing? So I think those must be the Farne Islands, and then Holy Island is a bit further north. So that will be Sea Houses. There, again, lovely little fishing town, fishing village. Lots of caravans there if you like a caravan holiday. Thanks for tuning in to Northumberland tourist information from the air today. Not happy with my direction indicator. I know it doesn't matter too much because we are flying on GPS, but it's just bugging me as a point of annoyance. That's on 33 there. Okay, so we're still following the magenta line. We've got 1 hour to get to our next waypoint. I think that's probably about as far as we'll get today. Cool thing is once you stop showing minutes and hours and minutes like that, once you get below the 1 hour, it'll give you minutes and seconds, which is a bit more granular, and you can see with a bit more granularity, a bit more accuracy, what your ETA or ETE is going to be. Now we have to be really careful here. We're going out over the North Sea, and we're getting blown from the left by that strong wind. So we just need to be able to get back to land if we need to. So if, for example, you're in the Cessna 150, if somehow you encountered a 80 knot wind from the west and you were just over the coast, you're kind of screwed at that point. You're not getting back on land because the Cessna 150s will not be able to make it. Let's call it a 90 knot wind. Not that you'd be flying in those conditions. But these aircraft do not have enormous, endless, boundless performance. You need to just be very aware that if you're starting to get blown out over the sea, you need to take some pretty serious, urgent action. Now what's interesting here is I'm keeping my nose on the track. I'm not sure if that green line, that green arrow at the top of that GPS is actually my nose, or what. Don't know. So pretty much we're over the sea now. There's Holy Island below. Still quite easily see England on the left there. Let's see, what time is sunset today? 5:28. So although the sun's very low in the sky, it's actually still just going to be there for the next 3 hours, 2.5 hours at least. Start to see some of the beaches in the Coleman, not the Coleman window, what's the other one? So the Coleman window is actually the one that gives you your pressure setting in the altimeter. That one, Coleman window there. That is the... Who's the guy who flew across the Atlantic? I always forget this. Lindbergh, that's the Lindbergh window. So when you're coming into land, once you start to see the runway appearing in your Lindbergh window here, that's when you should start leveling off in a Cessna at a smaller airfield. It doesn't work at big airfields because you'll still be 100 feet off the ground, but it's one way of landing better. So in the Lindbergh window, we can just start to see the beaches of northeast England. Can't be that far away. Ah, there it is. There's Berwick-upon-Tweed. That's where I did my first solo navigation to. You can tell because it's got this twisty-turny mouth of the river just here. Very unmistakable, very unique. And there should be a railway as well, railway bridge that you can't quite see here. Maybe that's it there. So 96 miles to go, 4,000 feet. We should be able to glide quite comfortably onto land there, but further up here we're getting quite far away from land. I think if I was flying this for real, I'd probably stay a bit closer to the coast, go over towards Kirkwall, and then fly up. Maybe stopping off at Perth, something like that. But for now, we're going to assume our engine is flawless and have a bit more of a direct routing. It's hard to tell what the wind is doing right now. So, I was going to say what SAB was, but I don't think I'm right. So I don't think SAB is what I think it is. The circle above it is Torness Nuclear Power Station. So it's a no-fly zone. But it only goes up to 2,000 feet. You can actually fly over it and see it quite close up, but do you really want to be flying that close to a nuclear power station? Especially when it could be seen as like a security threat. You just don't do it. Have some sense. There's Berwick-upon-Tweed. I'm going to try and order a drink from my daughter. Catering to your seat. Get back to our assigned altitude. What you do find over the North Sea as well is that the RAF use this area for training. So you do have to be a little bit careful. If you're flying IFR, then the RAF will be informed, and hopefully this should be kept out of your way. They'll basically be kept to a block of altitude, which should keep them out of the way of any known planned aircraft, any planned flights. Beautiful. So I think we'd probably struggle to get back to land now. Again, if I was flying this to reveal, I'd probably be another 2,000 or 3,000 feet higher than I am now, because that'll give me that glide distance that I would need to get back to land if needed. Certainly wouldn't subject my family to this risk. And with that in mind, let's do a quick Frida check. So fuel's looking good, radio's still nobody. Engines, T's and P's in the green, suction diameter's fine. Engine RPM's 2300 and stable. Direction indicator, I'm not sure that's a battle I really want to have right now. Close enough. And that one looks fine, the GPS one looks fine. And then altitude, we are too high, so let's sort that out now. Do a little bit of a cruise descent. So Torness will be somewhere over there. Oh no, it's not. A bit further up. What's that SAB? I wonder what that is. I'm going to get lined back up on track here, because you can see from my nav there that I'm not anywhere near where I should be. But I am on the altitude I need to be, so let's get this nose back up again. If I hit M, keep that pinned to us here. What's SAB? St. Abs. To view our DME there. I did a really good, I thought it was really good anyway, video from Portimao up to Lisbon, but unfortunately the microphone source wasn't configured properly, so you could just hear the aircraft and not me. So that was really enjoyable. I want to do that one again with you, just because the scenery is fantastic. You know, that engine note just sounds a little bit quiet to me, and it's because it was. You do get very used to the normal engine drone. Yeah, I don't think we're getting back to land in the event of an engine failure. But these engines are pretty reliable, touch wood. My little co-pilot has just brought me a drink. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. It is Pepsi, not a beer. Don't drink and fly, people. So what we might find around here, there we go, almost on cue, is, you can see a BC, is that BCS? I think that's one of those cargo aircraft that works for DHL, Scandinavian Air Service. As we get around here, so a bit further north, there's a big inlet. And that is, you can just see it on the map up here, that inlet there is where you fly into to get to Edinburgh Airport. So that is going to be a bit busier, just got to be careful around here. Doesn't seem to be anything around us though. Don't think that one will be, I think that's way too high to be turning onto the approach path for Edinburgh. Drink of choice for the captain today is Cherry Pepsi Max. It's quite serene up here. I think it's probably at times like this that you could conceivably think about maybe having some music on. But even then, over water, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I would be listening to that engine intently. Let's get back on to our magenta line. So I feel like I'm fighting between two urges. One urge is to stay close to land, the self-preservation urge, even though it's a simulator, that urge is still present because it's pretty realistic. It's triggering something in my brain that's saying stay close to land. But then there's another urge which is just stay in the magenta line because that's going to be the shortest path. That's going to get you there fastest. So it's just interesting. You've got to be very aware of your psychology when you're flying. I know that's a weird thing to say, but we're very fine-tuned instruments, and if we suddenly feel uncomfortable about something, you have to interrogate that feeling. You have to like, what did I hear? What did my body sense? If something's not right, your gut feeling can be something that your body kind of knows first. That's Shanwick. We're not going to be needing Shanwick again. We're not going oceanic. See some more trails up ahead. That may be the BCS aircraft. Nothing to do with British computer schools. Yeah, it is. Maybe it does. I don't know. We've got Manchester Centre online as well now. Dan love it. Dan just loves it. Oh, Scottish Control solo validation. Very nice. So Scottish Control, I'm guessing over on the west side. West side. West side of England. We still don't have any coverage north of the border, which is where we are now, flying over Scottish airspace. Still doing 80 frames per second at the moment. I mean, granted, there's not really a lot of scenery that it's rendering. But 80 frames a second. Super, super smooth. Got to be careful here as well, not to follow that green line, which is not our route, but is part of the airspace, I'm guessing, of Edinburgh, I would imagine. It seems two straight lines. Let's have a look at it, see what it's doing. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that airspace is. No land in sight now. Very, very hazy. It's times like this that you hope your GPS is working. Times like this you hope your direction indicator and your compass are aligned. They're both in 33. Kind of hoping that's good enough. So we're descending very slightly. I'll just put another notch of electric pitch trim to pitch the nose up. You can see the vertical speed indicator is responding to that. Just, now let's come back to 0. Let's just sort that out ourselves. It's got 100 feet to climb. It's not really a lot. Just let the vertical speed indicator rise a little bit. Don't want it to get too far ahead of itself. Whoop.